I recently had a post on my page get comments by Katy Schutte and Amy Cooke-Hodgson. If you don't know these two performers, they're improv performers. They're extremely successful, extremely talented, wonderful on stage. Katy Schutte is a part of the Maydays. She teaches all the time at Hoopla in the nursery. She's on Project Two. There's an enormous number of improv teams she's a part of. She's really supportive. There's also Amy Cooke-Hodgson, who's in an amazing improv team called Ostentatious. So I posted something, and them communicating made me feel very grateful that there's people in my art form that will talk back, that will be part of the dialogue, that will share their thoughts. Like if you're in a painting, you might find a local community. Or if you're into knitting, you might have like a regional community. But one thing about improv is, since the art form is so community based and so cooperative based, that you can have a regional community, but there's also this large international community that's there and interacting. And so I just feel very grateful for that community. So in honor of that, I'm going to read a page from Katy Schutte's book. I'm going to read 2 pages. Actually, let's see, it might be 3 pages, but it's my favorite part of her. I'll just read a couple. I'll just maybe like a page and a half. My favorite part of her entire book, The Improviser's Way. It's a long form workbook. It's set up kind of like an RPG book, but it's set for any team that wants to do a long form, and it kind of walks people through how to do it and how to tackle it with even exercises and stuff. Once again, I'm outside because I thought the outside noises would be kind of neat in the brightness and with everyone being stuck inside. You know what? I did my hair. Why does it look like this? I literally combed it and put product in it. That's embarrassing. I apologize. I've done better for you. Totally could have. I just noticed that right now. Have you even been off? Oh my goodness. My poor wife has to be seen with me looking like a big, handsome faced guy with bad hair. I'm gonna start reading, and hopefully you find this just as inspirational as I do. I thought this was my favorite part of the whole book. The title of this chapter is called "Stop Gender Casting Your Improv Show." I hope that in being honest about my opinions, we can have an open discussion about women, not just playing women in improv. More and more, I hear people say that they've asked the women in their improv show to just play women and the men to just play men. The reasoning is normally to make it more like theater. In my experience, I've only seen men make this decision. When we start calling theater an excuse for casting improv a certain way, it makes me sad. One of the things that I find the most fun and rewarding about being an improviser is that we are not hampered by our casting. By casting, I mean what people assume about you the moment they look at you. That is about age, gender, race, and also how you dress. If I go to a casting for a commercial, I'm only ever going to be able to play what I look like. Right now, I'm 36 with a blonde frizzy bob and 1950s cat-eye Ray-Bans. I'm a slightly pear-shaped 10 with a weak chin. I'm not sure what that means. Slightly pear-shaped size 10. I missed that. I'm a slightly pear-shaped size 10 with a weak chin, currently having my teeth put in a straight line. Recently, I played a school teacher, a wife, a mother, the voice in someone's head, a peasant, a queen, a presenter, and an antique dealer. All those have been comedy roles because of the quirky girl next door comedy face I have. I won't be cast as American because of my still working on it teeth. I won't be cast as male because I'm female, and I won't be cast as ages that are much different than my own. Unless or until I become a name, it's unlikely I'll be cast outside my actual physical appearance on screen. Totally relate to this. I was a working actor in LA for 2 or 3 years, where that's where my income was coming from. And as much as you want to be cast as like big, great roles, you're only going to be cast as what people think a majority of people will see you. It's not just how people see you, it's how the casting directors or the directors think a majority of people will see you. So I totally agree with that experience. Perhaps with my casting, one of the things I adore in improv is that I can play anyone. I can change my posture and movement to give the impression of a different body. I can play the beauty, the man, the very old, and the very young. I can play a lamp if I want to, or a concept, or a farm animal. I once improvised the bridge of a song as a turd floating in a jacuzzi. There's also a lack of diversity in the London improv scene that all the improv theater schools are working to change. Perhaps someone can speak to that from experience in the same way I could talk about my gender, and certainly it's up to those of us making and casting shows to be inclusive. Love it. Surprisingly, I often hear the argument that the audience will not understand that a man is playing a woman or a woman is playing a man. If you're clear with the names you use, the physicality you adopt, and so forth, the audience will definitely come with you. The same people who cast gender appropriately do not often have people play their own age or their own appearance. So why is gender the one element that gets enforced? Play to the top of your intelligence and don't patronize the audience. If we really don't get the fact that a man is playing a woman the first time, it will be an education, and the next time around, we will all be smarter. I watched a show recently that was cast with women only playing women and men only playing men. The director is one of my best male chums and is a feminist. It is a show with many historically set scenes. As you can imagine, the story contained a lot of incidences of women being repressed through civilized culture, and the women always played the subordinate, weak roles. This might have been a feminist commentary, but sadly, every single female interaction always mentioned men relation sex with men. If you're not aware of the Bechdel test, now is a good time to look it up. The Bechdel test is amazing. Bechdel test. And in a nutshell, it says a feminist way to analyze movies is to see if there's a scene with two women in it that talk to each other about something that is not related to a male character or men in the scene. And as much as you think that's like kind of weird and trite, and it started off, I did some research on it. It did start off in a comic series. Bechdel was like an animator, a cartoonist, and it was a joke, but it gained popularity because then you start realizing how true it is, how few movies have two female characters talking to each other about something other than a male, and it's really eye opening. So that's the Bechdel test, and you can use that for any stories, movies, theaters, books, all that kind of stuff. There was no scene where women were talking exclusively about anything other than men for more than a line or two. In the one scene where I did see a woman taking charge of the scene and reframing in favor of the women, I was sad to see it switched back and denied by a man in the scene. I don't think that casting choice helped the show and actually made the innate sexism of the ages fall back into present day. The director commented, "I believe that playing your own gender expression creates theater of heightened authenticity." Okay. My face does a weird thing when I do that. You really get puffy up here. I actually play a character like this. All right. All right. Welcome to my backyard. As part of Slapdash Festival years ago, I took part in a really fun John Hughes improv show that was cast with women only playing women and men only playing men. The men got to be the bike riding, fun having college teens, and the women got to be the girls obsessed with them. Yes, that is honoring the genre, but I really don't think it would have been a struggle to play across gender and have the audience come with us. After all, we're all in our 30s and 40s playing teenagers, and half of us were Brits playing Americans. My third example of this trend is from a corporate job I did recently where we enacted The Dream. In this short format, you ask for the real life experiences of an audience member and then show them the dream or nightmare they might have had that night. Before the show, there was a debate about who could play the audience member. I argued that any one of us that had an idea or felt the urge should step up to play them, or it should fall out organically. Others, including the other women in the cast, feel that the audience wouldn't be able to cope with the fact that a man might be playing a woman or a woman a man. I believe that if you use their name in the first instance, it's easy to know who they are, and if that's too hard, they are the protagonists of the story you just heard. Go figure. People aren't stupid. If they are, educate them. Treat the audience as poets and genius, which is a reference to Del close quote. Treat people as genius poets and artists. Please let us educate our audiences and our directors. Let's enjoy the full range of make-em-ups and be able to play whoever and whatever we please. In improv, I can play a cat, a sunset, or a 5-year-old. So why can't I play a man? Please also take a look at the article Gender in Improv, a Trans Perspective by London-based Canadian improviser Stephen Davidson. Stephen asks why gender should come into it as much as it does. Does everything and everyone we play need to be defined in that way? And then it goes on. But that's a really good analysis, a really good experience, which is one of the reasons I'm having Katy Schutte going to teach a course in improv history and philosophy on the Improv boost because I love that concept. I love that feeling that, and Whose Improv Is It Anyways by Amy Seaham, a point that she makes is that back when improv was very young and very new, like in the first 10 years that improv was around, there were a lot of white performers playing people of all ethnicities by having certain vocal affectations, by having certain mannerisms that are typically of someone else from that culture. And as much as white people had the the open platform to play anyone from any culture, people from a marginalized culture would never be viewed as anyone but someone from that culture. So someone that was a black performer could not have played a white performer. Someone who was a black performer could not have played an Asian performer. Someone who was an Asian performer could not have played a Puerto Rican performer, like performer character, I'm sorry. So whereas white people had the ability to perform anyone of any ethnicity and represent their voice, whether correct or incorrect, people of marginalized communities did not have that same ability because of the audience. The audience would only see a black person as a black person, whereas they're willing to suspend their disbelief to see a white person as anyone else. And so that's this sort of blind casting that Katie's talking about. But I think at a large level, when it comes to someone from a dominant narrative. So, for example, in this Amy C. handbook about the white performers being able to play people from other races, I don't think there was this huge deal online about a person said that he should be able to be free to play anyone of any race and give that community a voice. And I don't think you're doing anyone a favor by being a voice for their community because you're not part of that community. You'd be doing them a favor by giving them the platform and promoting them so that they then can be a representative of their community. But don't feel as if you know what the pain or struggles like of being of a marginalized community unless you're part of that community. It's probably better to listen to people who are experiencing that than feel as if you can speak out for them, that you speak better for them than they do themselves. So a lot of stuff I think is really interesting and cool, especially when you start doing mapping in improv. You start like mapping, like you have the narrative, and then you map like whatever the analogy is. So one time I saw this wonderful analogy about butterflies talking about those moths that are moving in, and it was all about like immigration and stuff like that. But you're talking about butterflies and moths, and so when you have that common ground, you can start seeing how stupid some of these arguments are, or you start seeing how smart some arguments are because you see them in a different context. So when you start getting into mapping, stuff like that, or when you start getting to theme analysis, when you have a large scale, long form team and you have the time to do a theme analysis in your show, and trust me, you can get there. It's really interesting. It's really fun. That's when you really start changing minds, and improv becomes more than just whose line is it anyways, or 185 or world's worst. It becomes like, wow, that must have been scripted. And it wasn't. It's just that everyone jumped on board and made their scene partner's idea look great, and they were just open to they had trust support. So thank you for watching. I have finally announced this, so this is my first video after announcing this. I have to say that I haven't had a big large boost of subscribers, but I'm just starting to crack the nut that is YouTube. I haven't had a lot of time to put into it, but I'm going to start putting time into it. Thank you all very much. I hope you're doing well. And I've lost. You ever like do that where like so I love like rollerball mouses, so I don't have to like do this. I just have to do this. And I just roll with my thumb. It saves me like a lot of like wrist pain, and then I can literally like do this, and I can still like manipulate the mouse. So I love that. But you ever like lose the mouse on your screen? Like it's right here. Where it was? I can find it. Okay. See you guys later.